Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. This is a very special episode because it is our very last of season 2.
We're super stoked. Can you believe it's been 2 years, Amanda? 2 years.
It blows me away. It blows me away because as I was calculating it out, I'm like, there's no way we're hitting into season 3. But yes, we are indeed heading into season 3. Our next episode will be part of season 3. We are so excited to have another season with all of you.
Absolutely. And we're really excited about this one. You know, we have had such a great season, and over the last 2 years, we've really grown a lot in our knowledge and our abilities, I would say some, but also in our guest list. And so tell them what this is all about, Amanda.
So this is going to be kind of a compilation of season 2. So we're going to have little snippets of some of our favorite quotes and guests that we've had over the last year. So this episode is a magic compilation of all the best nuggets from the last year.
Magical, an ode to season 2.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, because I'm sure we're going to miss some of the nuggets, and I'm sure there's going to be some interesting, maybe we might even have some behind the scenes. I don't even know. But if you didn't make it in, or if something you said and you were one of our podcast people, or you're listening to our podcast and you liked a specific quote or whatever, leave it in the comments below, because we'd love to know, like, what was your biggest takeaway from season 2? Because there were so many, and we want to make sure that we're within the time frame. So
yes, it's a short. I mean, again, it's the smallest nuggets. It's a whole year shoved into 30 minutes. So forgive me if I didn't include your favorite quote. You can go back and listen to it on your own, but we're super excited to share the best of. It is. This is the best of 20. I don't even know what year it is. It's sort of 2023, 2024, season 2, the best of our little nuggets. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Awesome. And share this with somebody who might enjoy it as well. Yay.
All right. Get after it, get into it.
For real.
Pinterest's main goal is, like, think of it as like the top of your funnel. Like, Pinterest is getting people to go from their platform to your website to where you can capture their email. So once you have that, you own your own email list. You're able to continue to nurture your community through your emails. Whereas if you solely focus on Facebook and Instagram, if you're ever put in Instagram jail or Facebook jail, you can't reach your people. So this gives you a great avenue to have something concrete that you own, that you can continue to nurture your audience through your email sequences. Anywhere you can type on Pinterest is a place to utilize keywords. So if it's about copywriting, put copywriting. Like, don't be like, oh, the fancy, fun, free way of blah, blah. No, just copywriting content or whatever you're talking about, because that's how people are finding you. When you go type in the search bar in Pinterest, you'll see that topics pull up, and then under that, you'll have boards pull up, and then under that, you'll have profiles pull up. So if you are a copywriter, make sure copywriter is in your title of your profile, because that's another way for people to search you. Yes, you want to put your name, but like Mackenzie Armstrong, / Pinterest strategist. So that way, when people are looking for Pinterest strategists, I pop up. I truly challenge everyone listening to go into Pinterest and search your niche. Search what topics you talk about in your business and see what comes up. Because I guarantee you're going to find content around that same material, which means you can be there as well.
So your marketing has essentially 3 buckets, 3 pillars, whatever you want to call it: owned, earned, and paid. Okay. And so the paid marketing is the stuff, shocker, you pay for, right? So an ad, an influencer campaign, something like that, where money is being exchanged. Then there's owned, which are the platforms that you own, that you have access to: your social media account, your podcast, if you have one, your website, your e-newsletter. You have complete control over what goes out onto those channels. Okay. And then the final one, which is the thing that we focus on, is earned media. Okay. And so that is when you are getting out in front of other people's audiences and you are not paying money to do that. Get super specific on who you want to get in front of. Okay. Don't go on shows just to go on shows. All right. And what I mean by that is your buddy, your old client, someone like that asks you to be on their show. That's fine. That's great. Like, go do it, have that experience, but do not expect it to move the needle in your business if it is not your exact ideal audience. Okay. So that's a huge thing that people kind of need to shift around. Is not just, oh, I got to get on as many shows as I possibly can. You need to get on shows that are full of the audience that you want to be getting in front of. Okay. So I think that that's a really big one. But the thing that I really like to say, because I 100% believe this, is the worst that can happen is you do not put yourself out there. The worst that can happen is you do not put yourself out for these opportunities, because your business will not grow.
Business is 10% about us and 90% about our client. And when we can connect with them using words that, they use words that come out of their own mouth, phrases that they've said to their friends, families, mentors, loved ones, the connection gets so much deeper. Copywriting is a language that makes people want to do something. And that's why it's so important to advertising.
So there's a very typical cycle that happens for people where they're struggling and then they hit a rock bottom. And then they have this aha moment that says, I can't live like this anymore. There must be a better way. Instead of talking to people in their pain, I only take all of my marketing and focus to talking to the people who have already hit rock bottom and have already decided that there's a better way. So I'm only speaking to them in that one timeline. And of course, because we're not limited by time and space anymore, because we're all on the internet, there are millions of people that are in the catalyst in any given industry at any given time. So I don't need to talk to people in their struggle. So I don't spend 6 to 8 months warming somebody up, because I already have the results. We're ready to invest and ready for results. Fulfillment is the predecessor to success, right? Success can't help but naturally follow fulfillment, because people want to feel fulfilled. And when they see you feeling fulfilled, they ask you that magic sales question, right? Which is, how did you do that? You're always free to be in the present moment. And in the present moment, that's where all limitless possibility exists. If we're constantly living in the past, then we're trapped in the survival mechanism of who we used to be. And if we're constantly living in the future, then we are riddled with anxiety and the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And trying to anticipate what could happen all the time.
Because the one thing that's all entrepreneurs have in common is aggravation, our ability or our lack of ability to settle. And then the big trait that makes us successful or not is curiosity. And it was that aggravated curiosity. And I'll always say that it's those two together. Hope is something you do from an armchair. Aggravation is something that you get up and you do. I hate that spot on the wall. There's dirt there. I've got to clean it. It's aggravation that propels you to do it. So when you marry that with the curiosity, you go out to try and find the answer. We are outsourcing our announcements. We're not connecting. We're yelling. And then we go into COVID, where we apparently can't connect. And then what did we invent during that period of disconnection? The gotcha society and the cancel culture. And it used to be an old saying about, what would you do today if you knew you couldn't fail? Well, sadly, that's actually been overtaken today by what would you do today if you weren't worried about people laughing at you? If you want to make $100,000 a year next year as an increase in your payroll, then go for 500 and fail by only making 300. I have always failed up. And I realized that I'd settle. And I realized that day I would never, ever settle again. But what if I stopped trying? What if I was in the exact same position today as I would be in, say, 6 months' time? Where's the growth? Where's the expansion? Where's the education? So constantly, I race motorcycles. I try new things. We said earlier, we built Sims Distillery. We're focusing on our books. We're focusing on getting people to change. We're pushing ourselves because that's growth. And I don't want to relax. I don't want to. Where's the fun in that? I love it when I'm working with someone and I suddenly hear that they're doing this. And I've got people that have just released their first book and they're speaking on stage and they're doing something dynamic in their business. I love it when people are prepared to stand out by first standing up. And that's what energizes me to try new things.
You are strong enough, you are capable, and you are more than able to reach any goal that you want. You just have to believe that it is possible for you and it's already yours. Mindset. I am 100% am a firm believer that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And I think for a lot of people, we get in our own heads. You have to remember that you are capable, right? Mindset, going back to mindset, you have to remember that you are still capable of making sales, even if there are thousands of people that do what you do. Get out of your own head, move past those limiting beliefs, and remember that you may be a box on that shelf, but you are the best box on that shelf. You are the box that someone is going to pick because you stand out and because you showcase yourself.
So many entrepreneurs that I work with and that I talk to get stuck in this cycle of second guessing themselves, of being distracted by those shiny objects, of basically stifling their own voice because they don't feel comfortable in their own skin and their own brand. Who am I? And how am I going to be that in the world? Because when you're just going about your daily life, we might have quote unquote a brand. Like people have perceptions about us, people understand certain things or have a certain association with you. But when you become an entrepreneur, you have to get really intentional about how am I going to show up? But when we know what our top 2 archetypes are, we can take a look at them and see what typically they correspond with, because there's these patterns. Our brain works by identifying patterns. So there's things that remind us of love. There's things that remind us of change and transformation. There's things that remind us of achievement and grit and hard work. So you're using that as the decision to apply to every piece of your business. If you think about Nike and how they built this enduring brand equity over time, it's because they found new ways to tell the same story again and again and again. So as much as we can stay in that lane, the better. And the way that we do that is we don't make those brand decisions or those design decisions from that surface level. We do it from the inside out and from the upside down.
More often than not, people are not waking up with that as their conscious thought. It's this subconscious habit, belief system, people pleasing. Holy moly, let's bring that one right to the forefront. Like, we want to make sure everyone else is taken care of. We want to, we don't want to disappoint anybody. We don't want to let anybody down. So we unintentionally put ourselves on the back burner. We get what's left of ourselves, right? In your business, unintentionally giving away your power might look like undercharging. It might look like packing your schedule, even though that you know that you need white space in your day every day, right? It's working up until midnight every night and then getting up and doing it all over again every single day, right? It's in these little tiny decisions where we are putting ourselves last or just not thinking about ourselves. We want to make sure that everything and everyone else is taken care of first. Such in the tiniest moments that we unintentionally give away who we actually are. And it adds up, and then the days go by and the years go by and sometimes decades go by, and we have no idea what we want. You are a human being. So those thoughts, feelings, and expectations don't go away just because of whatever role that you're filling in your world and in your life.
Really, this book is, and so she did, it's more about who I am and why I am the way that I am, and kind of my learnings, more about life lessons and reflections versus the actual stories of the abuse or what I went through. Those are more the supporting actors, if you would, the supporting roles. And it's really about like, you can do anything. And so she did. At the end of the day, Like, we are all dealt a deck of cards, and what we do with those cards is completely on us. We are not our circumstances, but our circumstances are a part of us. They help mold us and who we are, but it's our choice in which direction we want to go with those circumstances. I didn't go through the shit that I went through and become who I am still becoming to keep it to myself. And that's part of my purpose. It is to absolutely leave each place, person, thing better than what I found. And if I can do that through example, if I can be the change, which has always been one of my favorite quotes, if I can continue to show others different, to allow them to see an example of choice and of triumph, of adversity, of resilience, that very much can come into play in all aspects of our life.
When I work with other people and then also with myself, it was about expanding the capacity. It wasn't about like, oh, just do less, right? Because when you're working really, really, really hard doing the most and someone's like, oh, I just like work less and I make more. You're like, sure, Carol, like, what do you mean? Like, how? And what it actually is increasing capacity. So when we expand our capacity, then we can actually expand what we're doing or maintain what we're doing. But it feels like now we have so much more space. Because when you do stuff you hate, the energy it takes is like tenfold more than if you're like, I love this. All of this juggling and all of this pouring, the whole like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I'm like, you shouldn't be pouring. You should be overflowing.
I'm going to outwork everybody in the room, because I thought if I could just work harder, everybody would see how successful I was being. They would see how hard I was working, and that would matter. But on my path to do all of those things, I was showing up empty. I was completely absent because I wasn't being truly present wherever I needed to be. But, you know, it really allowed me to start to kind of have these checks and balances, and always going back to, before I agree to do something now, what I always do is I ask myself, if I agree to do this new thing, what is it that I have to say no to? You know, does it make good business sense? Is it moving me towards that vision of who it is I want to become? Going from a work all the time to a work with purpose. And once you kind of make that shift, you start to understand the value of what it is you're bringing to the table. And quite frankly, so many other industries do this all day long, but many times as entrepreneurs and independent contractors, we don't think of it.
You know, it's a little cliche when you hear people say, you know, your mess is your message, but it really is. And you break the thought pattern by just allowing it to settle. You don't run off to the pantry or the liquor cabinet and self-soothe. And the last step is to practice gratitude. And again, like, that sounds kind of crazy to think about. I'm so glad I was triggered today. This is awesome. It feels so good. Well, yeah, because it's your body's way of saying you have work to do. Like, you haven't gotten over that thing yet. And so it is a gift. You just don't really see it that way.
I see e-commerce as such a way for them to grow and build like true wealth in a monetary sense, but also in a livelihood sense. Like, they can actually live their lives and not get to that place of burnout, right? And so I see e-commerce as that way for them. You build these businesses. Again, it's an awesome idea. People are super into it, but you build it in a way in which you are breaking your back to do it. And you kind of are okay with that over and over and over again. So to me, you know, just like you were saying, that the passiveness is just kind of eliminating that back breaking part, but you still have to invest in it. You still have to put it out and share it with the world, but you don't have to grind it out to be able to provide that service or to deliver that service. You're taking the initial investment that somebody is making in them and their brand, and you're amplifying it. You're increasing the amount that person is investing into your business. And it's awesome because it gets them more jazzed, and you're spreading the message even further. So it's easier and easier to draw new people in as well.
I hired a business coach, and that is when I realized that I knew a lot about a lot, but I didn't know how to run a business, and I didn't know how to promote myself, even though I could help other people do it, and started learning the skills and kind of leveraging some of the things that I had done for other people, for myself, but getting mentors to help me, buying courses, different things that were going to help me get where I wanted to go. You need heavy sales activity. You need heavier marketing activity because you're trying and testing different pathways to get where you want to go. Where I am now in my business, I meet 5 people, I close all 5 of them. I often challenge people about it. I'll say, like, are you sure you need 10,000 followers on Instagram to hit your goals? Because that probably means your sales content isn't as strong as it could be. Let's focus on what messaging you're using and how you're positioning your business and the ways that you're creating value for people. So instead of 10,000 people following you, you get 100 and you hit your sales goals with ease. So that's really where I kind of focus, is less is better. Almost like less is best.
A human on average has up to 80,000 thoughts a day, and 50,000 of those are repeated. So, if we just worked on one of those beliefs every day, like before we know it, we're changing our thoughts, our beliefs, and it can happen very rapidly. Events are constantly happening, but it depends on how we look at them, which is why 2 children can grow up in the same home and have a completely different outlook on their childhood, which is why, you're both in a business. I have a business partner with my retreats. And so, we're both in the same business. We have completely different perspectives on our business based on the past. But when you've been stuck in survival for such a long period of time, the sense of freedom is scarier than the fear base that you've been living in. Having known at that point what I knew about havening, I said, okay, enough is enough, because we've got to be ready for healing. We've got to be ready for breakthrough. We've got to be ready to decide, actually, I don't need this belief anymore. It's having more detriment than it is helping me.
What does success look like? Does it mean selling more books? Does it mean selling t-shirts? Do you want to have more speaking engagements? All those things, I think, will tailor how you execute on your strategy. The next is like who you're targeting. Who are you actually, providing value for, solutions for, and helping? And then the next is honestly just your resources, which usually can mean time or money. So when I'm trying to have that first initial conversation, I'm usually trying to get as much information around those things, because when you're trying to figure out what the ingredients are for the thing, the recipe or the dish that you're trying to make, you're going to be able to make sure that you're getting the ones that help support that. And I think a lot of times people don't necessarily go to it from that. They hear the new fad, they hear the new thing that they need to be doing, rather than saying, okay, this is where I want to go. So will this support me in terms of getting there? So many times when we have problems, we think about like, how are we going to solve that problem? But if we start to change that, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and you can do this in your business, you can do this in your life, like stop thinking about how you're going to solve it. Start thinking about who you could potentially lean on to help solve that problem. Because if I think the quote is, you stand on the shoulders of the giants, you can see so much further. If you have those giants that have those experiences, have that knowledge, that's in their superpower, that allows you to accelerate, I think, your growth, but also the opportunity to really be able to make the impact in the way that you ultimately see.
If you're listening to this, if you're struggling, it's okay. Everybody who has really done something, I believe, has struggled sometime along the way. And if you don't struggle, my opinion, of course, you're not going to be ready for success when it comes your way. Sometimes people don't understand it's just that one step forward daily. The reason a lot of people don't do well in life, right? There's 3 things you need to do: focus, lock in, and attack. The reason a lot of people don't do well in life is they focus on too many things, and then they end up focusing on nothing. And then they end up not moving anywhere because they're like, well, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, then you're like, well, then you get like frustrated. Then you get upset. Then you get downtrodden. Then what happens? Nothing happens. So if you're listening, if you're struggling, if you're not struggling, but if you definitely are struggling, focus on just one thing. If you don't want to do the hustle, that's okay. Then be okay with whatever life throws at you. Fine. If you don't want to hustle, you don't want to bust your butt, if you don't want to do the extra, then don't expect life to give you extra.
Marketing and investing monies in building your systems, processes, and procedures in your brand inside of your business. It's an investment. It costs money, but I've learned from experience, if you try to cheap out, if you try to do it for yourself when you don't even really know what you're doing yourself and your business and your clients that you serve a disservice by trying to wear all the hats. as business owners, they all are on a quest to save money and we think we're doing it and we're not going to have a marketing budget because we don't need one. But even if you don't understand it and throw $200 a month in your marketing budget to start and you don't use it, you've got to start somewhere.
And I think that is such an important field to be in, because I think as women especially, we are taught to be small. We are taught to hold back, just put everybody else's needs before your own. And I think that what ends up happening is that we become people pleasing, we become much smaller. But if we could get out of our own way, we have an incredible amount of power that's in our lane. We don't have to try to be men. We can just be us. We don't have to be extroverts if we're not. The pursuit of badasserie is about being yourself. If you can truly have the courage to be all of who you are, that's exactly what the world needs. So I love that you're doing it, and I love that I can be a part of it. And that's real consistent. You don't just want to have a buyer who buys from you once. You want to have raving fans who, whenever you put out your next service or your next product, they are the first ones to buy, and they are the first ones to tell everybody else about it. And that only comes with trust. And the way that you build that trust is through consistency. I may not get the chances that I think that I'm going to somewhere down in some distant future. This is my life and it's happening now. And am I living for me, or am I living for the expectations of society, the world? Am I people pleasing? Am I attempting to create a persona that I think everybody else is going to like when I don't even like myself? And for most of us, we are running on autopilot. We are simply just the product of our conditioning and our programming from our childhood all the way to leading up to right now. And the vast majority of humans never go and do a stock take of the beliefs and the thoughts that happen on repeat inside of our minds. And therefore, they are running a blueprint, a map of a reality that was created when they were no less than 7. And so until we actually go in and do that, reconnaissance of our mind, the stock take, to have a look at, well, what beliefs are there? What are the thoughts that I'm consistently repeating on my head? If that's autopilot, it is very, very likely in most circumstances that it's going to be fearful. I think it's wonderful to go after these things. I think it's amazing to be in business and to pursue your dreams and to go after excellence. I am committed to doing that. What I'm committed to beyond that, above that, as the overarching, is my happiness. Because you can get the dream job and the dream whatever. You can get everything that you've ever asked for. But if you are not happy, what's the freaking point?
I think women in particular have a really hard time understanding that the things that they know are actually genius to someone else. Because we just think, oh, well, everyone knows, like, for instance, everyone knows how to do personal branding and publicity. Everyone knows how to, do Facebook ads and hack funnels, because that's what I know. But then when you're speaking with other people, you don't realize that not everyone knows the things that you know. So this is what's called a genius zone. And we women in particular don't really recognize our own genius, or recognize that not everyone has the knowledge that we have. I think entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development journey that anyone can go on. So if you think you're starting a business to earn money and run a business, actually, I think you're starting a business to experience all of your fears, all of your limiting beliefs, and be faced with all of this stuff that you carry on with every single day.
People pleasing is actually really manipulative. That was one of the hugest breakthroughs I had when I realized I think it's coming from this good place, but I'm actually trying to manipulate other people's perception of me because I want them to like me. I want them to accept me. So I'm bending over backwards and contorting myself into some version of myself that I think will be the most palatable to them. When you have amazing boundaries and you do really solid self-care, then you give from a place that's genuine. If somebody's giving to me, I want them to give to me because they want to, not because they feel a sense of obligation.
They're teaching you to be independent and what you're capable of doing. For me, it's more about how can you possibly know what you're capable of doing unless you put yourself out there? That is what develops for confidence, self-worth. Liking who you are is all about you seeing, I did that. And you can't develop it if it's always handed to you. That failure to me was not them saying they didn't want me. It was me not trying. And if I don't even put myself out there, that to me is failure.
All right, everyone, it's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.